Welcome to the mid-year book freakout tag. I know I'm a little late, but my name is Kristina and let's get into it. First question, best book of the year. This is very subjective. I do not think this book won any awards or anything like that, but the book that I enjoyed the most this year was Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. So this is a second chance romance, and in this book we follow, I'm gonna try to remember their names without looking up. Walter? No, I don't. Matt and Grace. Okay. We follow Matt and Grace, and they become friends in senior year because they are neighbors, so they become really close friends really quickly, and then they start dating, and then he goes off on this big photography journey, career, lives someone abroad, and many years later they encounter each other again, and the book is basically in two parts. It's the half of their story of how they met and how their relationship developed in college, and then fast forward 15 years where they're at now, what they're doing now, and you kind of see them trying to repair amends. I just like this book. I read it in 2 days. I don't usually read books in 2 days, but this one was very fast. It sucked me in right away, even though there isn't too much plot there. And I will say I liked the female character more than the man. Wait, did I? I don't know. Which character did I like? I recommend you read it if you like books that kind of mimic real life, but they're also a little bit exaggerated and that are very fast and easy to read, and there's no fancy writing or world building to get your head around in this book. The next question is the best sequel. So I haven't read any sequels this year, actually, but I'm starting to read a sequel a few days ago, and that is Wicked Souls by Katie Wismer. This series is just a surprise that I'm even reading it to begin with. Like, I don't read a lot of fantasy, and I don't consider myself someone that likes reading about vampires, but I really enjoyed the first book, which we'll talk about later in this video. And I'm enjoying the second book. It's very fast-paced, and again, it doesn't have that fancy writing. That's what I don't like about fantasy sometimes. There's like this very intellectual, highbrow writing sometimes where it's describing a tree in 5 minutes, and I don't know. There's one book in particular I'm thinking of. This is not fair to all fantasy. There's lots of really great fantasy out there. But anyways, Wicked Souls, since I'm a quarter of the way done, this is going to be the best sequel I've read this year because it will be the only sequel so far. Okay. New release I want to read. This is The Night Shift by Alex Finlay. If you've watched my previous booktube videos, you'll know I like to throw in a thriller every so often. Like, generally I do like reading romance, but every so often I get kind of bored and I want a book that's fast-paced and is going to scare me just a little. So The Night Shift sounds so good because it's based around Y2K, where everyone thinks that the end of the world is going to happen. Let me know if you're in that age range where you remember this being a thing. I remember going to my local candy store and they were selling like Y2K memorabilia, not candy, it was like sunglasses and stuff, like celebrate the last year here. Anyways, the world doesn't end, and then I believe there's some sort of murder mystery type thing into this. Yeah, check it out, or let me know if you have read it or if you would want to read it or if this book sounds good to you. Anticipated release. This one I'm really sad about because my most highly anticipated release is no longer being released in 2022, and I have to wait until 2023 to read Silverborn, The Mystery of Morgan Crow, or is it called The Mystery? Yeah, I got that right. Silverborn, The Mystery of Morgan Crow. If you've watched my other videos, you'll know I try to throw in a Morgan Crow reference every so often because it is just such a magical book. It's a middle grade book, and you just get to be a child again, explore your inner child. You get to play, see what these characters are doing. You get to use your imagination. It's so good. It's so wholesome. And I really thought it was coming out in October of 2022. And I checked Goodreads and it's now coming out October 2023. So, yeah, that's my most anticipated release. That's no longer going to be released. I'm so sad. Let me know if you love Nevermore as well. I plan on making more videos about Nevermore, the series. Most disappointing book. I actually have more than one. One, two, three, four. Okay. I have four disappointing books, but only one of them I finished all the way, so keep that in mind. So the first disappointment for me was the Addicted to You first book in the series of the Addicted series. I want to go off on a side note though and just say like how genius the marketing is for this series, because people are searching like addictive books to read. Like they're searching books they want to get addicted to, or like addictive series to read. And when they search that, you know what comes up? The Addicted series. So this is just genius marketing. I don't know if the author planned this way ahead of time, but this marketing is genius. Anyways, unfortunately, I've read the whole first book because there's so much hype around this series here on the internet. In this book, we follow two main characters. They're from a very rich, wealthy family. We follow Lily, who is a sex addict, and we follow Lo, who is an alcoholic. And the two of them enable each other, and it's a very toxic relationship. And then there's some sort of like secret that gets discovered when you find out why this person is protecting this person. It's very slow, but I read the whole thing because I want to be part of the hype. However, it sounds like a lot of people don't like the first book as much as they like other books. Each book in this series kind of follows a different couple, and then the last book in the series is said to like wrap everything up. And if you do finish the whole series, apparently you'll feel very attached to these fictional characters. Again, I didn't like the first one. It was quite slow. I don't have a ton of negative things to say about it, like other people that didn't like it. I don't know. For something that is so hyped up, I am the most impressed by the marketing. Okay. The next one is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, I think. I have been wanting to get back into fantasy books for a while, other than Morgan Crow, just because I think it's exciting once you do put in the effort to get to know a world and to get to know the characters. And if it's a good fantasy, like the story keeps you hooked, and it's great escapism. And this book is like raved about. People love this book so much. So I tried to read it. I didn't finish it. So it might be really good, but I just could not finish it. And I tried really hard. It is written in the perspective from three different characters, and then I accidentally like revealed to myself the plot twist, so I won't share that here in case you want to read it. The opening line is great. It's like, oh, let's start Bo at the end of the world. Why don't we? But the tone of the first two chapters is just kind of very solemn and sad, and I think I was just looking for like a more dazzling magical book, if that makes sense. I have two more disappointments. One I did not finish, that being the Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. Did you know that there is a fourth Hunger Games book? That is the Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. And it is from the perspective of President Snow. So that actually sounds like a really fascinating read. I was so excited when I found this out. I couldn't finish it though. I tried, maybe like 25%. It's from the perspective of Snow, but I thought maybe he would start out as a likable character, and then I would learn to see why he became the way he is in the other series, and just the more history of the Hunger Games in general, which I think if you are interested in more history of the Hunger Games in general, you will get that in the book, so don't discount it entirely. And I think the writing's good. I just think that Snow at the beginning of the book starts out evil, and I know he's going to end evil, and I just can't empathize with him. And there's a lot of writing about cabbage soup in this book. So unfortunately, I did not finish this one. I've heard the audiobook is really great though. If you like the Hunger Games, I do think this one is worth giving a try. The next disappointment is Every Last Secret by A.R. Torres. It's kind of like a thriller, domestic suspense, murder thing, rich people in rich houses. Usually I do like those kinds of reads, and I did read the whole thing. I think I just got really mad at the characters and their ridiculous behavior. I don't know. I didn't like it, but if you do like domestic suspense with a little bit of murder in a rich house, you might like it. I can't remember like too much of the plot. I think it has to do with like the revenge. This woman is definitely seeking revenge, which can be entertaining to read about, but I don't know. I didn't like it. Okay, let's move on to something more positive. So the next question is your newest fictional crushes. This is an interesting question. I don't think about this a lot, but I'm going to put some fan art up here, not by me, but I would say Kwan from The Heart Principle. I just really liked this book because I read it when I was feeling kind of sick. I was in a town where there was nothing to do, and I was in a nice hotel room, and it was near the beach, but it was like very hard to find food or anything there. But I had like such a beautiful, wholesome book to read. So honestly, this is more just me telling you, read The Heart Principle. Although The Heart Principle is a standalone in a series of 3 books, it's the 3rd book. So if I do read the other 2, I'll be reading them backwards, but the other 2 just follow the stories of different characters. It's not like you have to read them in order. This one is about Anna, whose boyfriend tells her he wants to open up the relationship, and she's like, okay, fine, you want to open up the relationship? I'm going to open up the relationship. And then she meets someone, and that is Kwan, and you have a representation for autism in this book, and Kwan is just like so sensitive and caring and funny, and the 2 of them bond over their love for nature documentaries. I don't know. It's such a feel-good read. Highly recommend The Heart Principle for any vacation, any plane, train, or if you're sick, or if you're on your period, or if you just want a comfort read, read The Heart Principle. Newest favorite character. This isn't my newest favorite character. Maybe this is my favorite character from last year, but Jupiter North from the Nevermore series. He's just hilarious. I hear the series is being made into a movie. I want to see who they cast him. He's just an eccentric, intriguing character. He reminds me of what Jack Sparrow would be like if Jack Sparrow was like, I don't know, if Jack Sparrow was less selfish, he would be Jupiter North. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, that's my favorite character. Book that made you cry. This is the first book I read in 2022. That is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This follows Kenna, who recently gets released from prison. She is a single mother, and her main motivation is that she wants to be able to reconnect with her daughter from her late boyfriend, I believe. So that's her whole motivation. She wants to be able to reconnect with her daughter. You find out what happened and why her previous boyfriend died. And so she goes back to the town trying to find her daughter. She meets a bartender who you find out that has a strong relationship with her daughter and her daughter's, I guess you can call them foster parents. It's just, there was lots of family dynamics in this book, but it does have a happy ending. So I recommend reading this one. It will pull your heart in all different directions. Book that made me happy. That one would have to be Giant Days, Volume 1. This is actually a graphic novel. Don't be fooled by the cover. I saw this cover and I was like, nah, I don't know if I really like the art or if I want to read this one. Like I didn't really know what to expect, but when I read it was about like these 3 girls making friends in their first year of university. I was hooked. That sounded hilarious. And I was right. It's available on Hoopla if you have the library app Hoopla available wherever you live. I downloaded it on my iPad and I read it. It's so funny. It's hilarious. It's just a bunch of shenanigans. And if you missed that time of your life when you were in first year, university, college, whatever, you'll love this. It's like watching a hilarious cartoon show. I keep meaning to read the other volumes, but I haven't yet. So this book just made me really happy and I laughed a lot. Most beautiful book, honestly, this is my answer because I feel like it has to be my answer in a weird way. It's Daisy Jones and the Six. If you've been watching book videos on the internet for a while, this is not going to be the first time you've heard about this book. But if you're new to book videos, Daisy Jones and the Six is told in interview format. It is a fictional book from all these different characters that were part of this famous band who became famous relatively quickly, and it follows their different perspectives into what happened, why the band broke up, what its downfall was, and it's just a great character study. It is a large book, but because it's told in interview format, it's very easy to just digest because everything is in dialogue. And if you're interested in behind the scenes of the rock and roll industry, then this would be a good read for you. It's a good character study. I did want to say Before We Were Strangers is the most beautiful book just because it's the book I enjoyed the most this year. But I don't know. This one fits the category and I don't know. I feel like if BookTube had a panel of judges and they were judging me on my answers of the most beautiful book, they would approve of Daisy Jones and the Six as an answer. I know that sounds ridiculous, but anyways, are there any more questions? Okay, books to read by the end of the year. There are obviously a lot, but let me start with a few. I have Legendborn, which is another fantasy. It's about a school or a secret society, and it has magic, and I think, yeah, hidden society. I don't know much else, but people really like this book, so sorry I can't tell you more. Next one is It Happened One Summer. That one is a romance, but it's based off the character Alexa from Schitt's Creek, I believe. That is a really fun show, so it's just a fun book I want to read. I think if I'm in an isolated place, I will read this one, much like how I read The Heart Principle. Pick that one up. It's so good. A Darker Shade of Magic. This is Kristina trying to get into more fantasy. I have never read V.E. Schwab books, but this is a fantasy. It's a portal fantasy, and apparently it takes place in 5 different types of London. So this sounds good. I think what I've realized when I try to get into fantasy is that I don't like the typical like swords and dragons and kings and queens. Like if you like that, that's awesome. I just realized that's not really my taste. So I'm hoping this one is more of just like London being magic. I don't know. I think what I'm looking for is low fantasy and magical realism. So if you have any recommendations for those types of books, let me know. But yeah, Darker Shade of Magic, hope to read that this year. I will let you know my thoughts. And The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This was written by the same author who wrote Daisy Jones and the Six. And what I've noticed from reading the synopsis of a lot of this author's books is that she takes characters who were like famous in some way and are no longer famous and kind of like has them dealing with fame, but she makes them seem so real that you believe they are real. Like I believed Daisy Jones and the Six was a real band. I know they're not, but after I read the book, I was searching the internet for like people making covers of Daisy Jones and the Six songs. It's told, I believe, from a journalist's perspective of this famous actress, and she's retelling what her life was like over all of these years, and I am sure there are 7 husbands involved in this story. Please, if you have like any fantasy books that don't involve swords and kings and queens, it's a weird request, I know, but if you know just the book, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Bye! I'm coming back because I forgot to film the biggest surprise, I think. That was The Marionettes by Katie Wismer. This is being compared to books like Twilight, Vampire Academy. The author says if you enjoyed those types of books as a teen, you would enjoy this series. And I picked it up because I really like Kate's channel, and it did not disappoint. I thought it might because like I said, I just don't read a lot of books about vampires, but it had a secret society in it. That's what it is. I love books with secret societies. So the first book follows Valerie, who is a blood witch, and she's like part of this very wealthy family. She's been training for her whole life to be initiated into this like secret society at the estate. And the whole book just kind of follows the build up to the initiation process. So I think that's what it was. I think I like the setting. Like I could read this book without any vampires probably and still enjoy it just as much. And the writing is fast-paced and it's not pretentious, which, did I talk about that already? Oh, I did, because I just filmed The Disappointment. So it's not like pretentious, it's not solemn, it's like a little creepy and eerie, and there's some scenes that are pretty scary, so look up trigger warnings. But no, it was a good book. Anything hidden societies, secret societies, let me know in the comments below. I will read them. Okay.